As the community waits for answers regarding the active animal abuse case at Coastal Dreams Rescue and Sanctuary in Bucksport, those who knew the owner are now sharing the experiences they had with the rescue. This as some have reached out to TV5 asking about this case and how the state addresses animal cruelty complaints. Alyssa Thurlow has the latest in this TV5 Investigates report.
State officials say 27 dogs were relocated from the Coastal Dreams Rescue and Sanctuary in Bucksport and have since been placed in shelters and rescues. We're told they're doing well, but some of them have a long road ahead of them. We reached back out to a spokesperson for the animal welfare program and asked for an interview, but instead were provided with a statement. Those who knew and donated money to the owner and operator of the animal rescue say she betrayed not only them, but the countless number of people who helped her financially, but most importantly, the dogs she was responsible for caring for.
This person who I thought was my friend pretty much did a 360.
Serena Carrero says she first met Coastal Dreams Rescue and Sanctuary owner Alicia Krudaleski in February 2023. Carrero adopted 2 dogs from the rescue. She even helped Krudaleski with fundraisers and favors. In October 2023, Carrero said Krudaleski asked to borrow her truck. Carrero agreed to help Krudaleski's volunteers take some trash to the dump. On July 30th, an agent with the Animal Welfare Program was called to Krudaleski's property and says they found 27 dogs living in poor conditions. Officials say 6 sets of dog remains were found in trash bags and crates.
Knowing obviously what we know now, what kind of goes through your head with that experience, looking back on it?
Now I'm wondering, like, were there dead animals in the bag? You know, did she stuff other stuff around it to hide them? I don't know. And it's scary to think about.
A court complaint shows Krudaleski is now facing 6 felony charges of aggravated cruelty to animals and 1 misdemeanor charge of cruelty to animals.
You can cross your T's and dot your I's as much as you want and never really know what's going on the other end.
One of the dogs found at the property was a 1.5-year-old pit bull named Howler. He came from Rags to Riches Animal Rescue in Tampa, Florida. We're told Howler is doing well and with a local rescue. It's unclear if he will be returned to the rescue in Florida. Since the investigation is ongoing, a spokesperson for the Animal Welfare Program says they cannot provide private information about the parties involved. They say they take reports of animal cruelty and abuse seriously and pursue all legal options to prosecute those accused of such crimes. The AWP says they receive anywhere from 500 to 800 complaints of animal cruelty each year. Unfortunately, they say the total number of animal welfare cases is much higher than the number handled by the AWP, since other agencies also handle animal welfare complaints. To report a case of animal cruelty or neglect, you should call your local law enforcement or animal control first. If it's outside of business hours, call state police at 973-3700 and they will contact the Animal Welfare Program. We have a link to some frequently asked questions regarding animal cruelty complaints in Maine, plus the full statement from AWP on our website and mobile app. Reporting for TV5 Investigates, Alyssa Thurlow, WABI TV5 News.